ශ්‍රී ලංකාව බිහි කරපු තාක්ෂණයෙන් අගතන්පත් පිතිකරුවෙක් ඒ වගේම ඉතාමත්ම සුවිශේෂ මහත්මයෙක් අපි හොඳ අත්පල සන්නාදකින් පිළිගනිමු සිදත් ප්‍රථම මහතා.
I think I am the 12th man for today because young Thilan here wanted me to come and speak, I think only 2 days ago. So as 12th man, I could play a few loose shots. Thilan, Mutha, Muralidaran, Mati, Mr. Malida Disanayaka, Mr. Kushil Gunasekara, Murali's long-lasting manager, Suresh Subramaniam, the chairperson of the Olympic Committee, Anna Puncheva, the former president of the Cricket Board. Ladies and gentlemen, what can I actually tell you about Muralidaran? Because I think you know all his records, whatever he's done for this country, I'm sure you know. And those records are right up there with the best in the world, beating the best in the world. But I can tell you, his journey was not a bed of roses. In fact, there was a time in the late 80s, early 90s, the whole world was against him. The whole world was against him. Not because he was not a nice guy. He was much loved by everybody. But they couldn't cope with him, and so they wanted him out of international cricket. I remember being in the forefront of things during that period. And Murali's journey was really a remarkable journey of grit, courage, perseverance, and more perseverance. I can't think of any cricketer in this country who would have actually withstood that storm. Because I can tell you a little story which I experienced, in fact, because I was representing Sri Lanka at the ICC Cricket Committee in 2002. And this was, I think, after he had been called very, very harshly by some umpires. And I was at the ICC Cricket Committee meeting in 2002. And the second item on the agenda was actually illegal deliveries. And I still remember taking a deep breath when we came to point 2 and Sunny Gavaskar, who was the chairman, said, you know, illegal deliveries are a serious issue and deformity is no excuse for chucking. So I very innocently looked at Sunny Gavaskar and asked him, can you define deformity? And then he suddenly, went silent for a second or two. And for my luck, David Ackfield, who was representing England, quickly butted in and said, gentlemen, please don't take this argument further because I have got to report something to you which you need to hear, and thereafter you can maybe decide whether you want to discuss this or not. And he said, at that time, the new technology of 200 slides per minute had just come in. And he said every single bowler in England whom they recorded, especially the fast bowlers, had a bend more than 15 degrees. And he said, you need to really look at this. So that was a very, very significant time during this whole saga of trying to penalize Murali. But the thing that we have to remember, gentlemen, is Murali did not just get through that period. He got through it with flying colors. He was maybe the only bowler in the world who proved that he is a legitimate bowler by bowling in a cast. Even his biggest critics accepted the fact that he was a great bowler. And he was what he was. So I still can't imagine how Murali went through all that muddy. You should be proud of your husband. I can't think of anybody else who would have had that grit and determination to go through that stormy period because it was very tough when you knew the whole world was against you. Besides this cricket, something that you all may know is that he is a man with a huge heart. He is involved with his manager Kushil. I don't know how you have survived with him for so long, but congratulations to you too. But if you all don't know, he's not just a great sportsman, but he's a man with a heart, great heart, very kind, very compassionate, and does a lot for the people who need his friend. So that is Muralidaran. And if I may just digress, and I think it will be remiss on my part if I don't mention something on Mr. Gamini Disanayaka, who was involved with us during our years of struggle and years of cricket. In 1984, when we went to play our first test match in England, I still remember we had a dinner the day before the test match at Lord's, and he was, being the chairman of the cricket board, invited to speak. And I'll never forget, after he spoke, the chairman of the TCCB, who was Sir somebody, I can't remember, and I remember he was with British Airways or something like that. His first opening line was, "How does one follow Mr. Gamini Disanayaka after that speech?" He was that fluent, that articulate, an incredible speaker. The charisma, the personality was incredible. And after we heard him, the next day we walked tall because we felt so good and comfortable being Sri Lanka and knowing that we had somebody like Mr. Gamini Disanayaka behind us. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I haven't spoken too much Tilan. So let me introduce Mr. Muralidaran, the greatest off spinner ever produced.